Ladies and gentlemen, first I have to apologize in advance because I will take you to the trauma. And if we talk about trauma and we are in Kurdistan, so we have to talk also about historical trauma, transgenerational traumata, collective traumata, individual traumata. In the Western country, I'm working as a professor for now 20 years, they just focus in individual trauma. Someone has experienced an accident, a war, and they try to reduce the symptoms somehow. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work with Kurds who experience historical traumata. So I will go through and explain what is a historical trauma, what is a collective trauma, and individual trauma, which is not easy. And I will maybe confront it to you with some events that you know all. But sometimes it is important to know your past, your history. And this is appropriated to the TEDx format. If we know our past, so we will have a future. If you know our past of mental health, you will be able to have a health society. And this is important, especially here in Kurdistan and in all areas where the war is going on. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever I speak about hope and look at the humankind history, the history of mankind, it's really sometimes difficult to have hope in people and in mankind. Kurdistan history is full of massacre, of genocide, of oppression, of violence. Even you, the new generation, God thank you, don't have this experience. But your family and your parents and grandparents, they know what it means, experience violence. And even in some areas, in some region in Kurdistan, not just in South Kurdistan, they experience violence simply they are Kurds. This is the reality that we are faced. The mankind history is full of cruelty. During the Second World War, 60 million people were killed by human hands. 40 million people were killed during the period of Genghis Khan. 15 million indigenous Americans or Indians were killed in North and South America. This can also say it to the Roman, to the Persian, and to the Ottoman Empire and other empires, other places where people destroyed and want to kill the people. We have to understand this. Otherwise, we will not be able to treat the person medically, psychotherapeutically. The history of the mankind is very important. I'm working since 2015 with the German government in Kurdistan, especially at the University of Dehōk, where we set up an institute for psychotherapy and psychotraumatology, and we trained with our professors worldwide, came to Dehōk and trained them how to be a good professional psychotherapy. And I was also the medical and therapeutical head of the German government. We take 1,100 IS survivors, Daesh survivors to Germany for medical treatment with the help of the Kurdish government, of course. And I examined one girl, which I will never forget. Rinda was 8 years old. She was looking in my eyes with a question of why she has bought and sold 8 times, tortured and raped 100 times over a course of 10 months. The question of why, I have no answer. Yet I have no answer. How the human being can do cruelty, and how he can do. And the other question, ladies and gentlemen, that I ask me through the 20 years I'm working in Africa with the United Nations, in Palestine and different countries, the question is, despite this cruelty, despite this horror, how Rinda don't give up hope? How is that possible? How we can process coped trauma. How is it possible? Despite all things. And this is also the question how a society can do that, which is really not easy. So we have to go and understand what is trauma. Trauma is, in a sense, an attack of our understanding of the world. It's confrontating, its meaning, it's a confrontation with an event that our psyche, our soul, is not prepared for that. We cannot assimilate it. We cannot integrate it. Can you understand? Just have a small empathy what it's mean to be raped as an 11-year girl or 8 years? To tortured? To lose your family? To grieve? What kind of emotion should be this? It changed people. It changed the essential nature of the people. And this is important. Trauma means you experienced an event which you cannot accept it, not understand it, and it causes psychological damages. And the spectrum of trauma disorder, it's result from range from one event, one overwhelming incident, to the consequences of multifaceted, prolonged, repeated abuse. And trauma, in a sense, shows them through different kinds of symptoms. People are not able to sleep. They have a sleeping disorder. They have flashbacks. They want to be alone. They are depressed. They are angry. They are looking at the question of why. They are isolated, want to speak to any person. This has happened to one person as an individual. And we have to understand this, otherwise it is really difficult. If we are talking about transgeneration trauma, which means we have some evidences that historically traumata 200 years or 300 years pass through culture, through education, through different behaviors and epigenetic to the next generation. So when you, ladies and gentlemen, remember Halabja or Anfal, it's impacting you, it is impacting me. I will never forget when I was a student in 1988 and heard this event of Halabja and Anfal. I couldn't see this picture until now, because it impacted me. Maybe this is why I became professor in psychotraumatology and trauma expert, because it impacted me as a person. I wanted to understand what has happened to them. So it became a collective trauma of the Kurdish people. It's a part of the memory of all. We have triggers. Just if you mention Halabja, you know what it means. This has now happened to Shingal, the same. Ask any Yazidi or any Kurd Yazidi, August 2014. You know, it's beginning to start it to working in your brain. You have pictures, you have feelings, something that you cannot integrate with yourself. So this is something that we need as a transgeneration traumata. And collective traumata means, like in Shingal or in Anfal, it was not just a targeted person to kill someone, to abuse someone. Saddam regime want to destroy the Kurds. Daesh want to destroy Yazidis as a group, not just one person. This is collective trauma. This means you are not just alone. Your community, your society is targeted to be destroyed. This is also important. The third one, so we are talking about 3 types of trauma, transgeneration trauma, as I mentioned, collective trauma, and of course, individual trauma. Individual trauma, each of you who traumatized, each of person has their own pain and the suffering. So we can do this through psychotherapy. Experts can do and try to heal them individually. Some concepts in the Western country don't work so much. They have another value, another behavior, another idea to understand trauma, like in so-called traditionalist culture, like here in Kurdistan or elsewhere. So we have to adapt to this, and we call it as a transcultural psychiatry or transcultural psychotherapy. We have to find new ways, new techniques to understanding. When I'm in the refugee camps with my students and started psychotherapy, it's really hard and difficult to ask them a question and get the appropriate answer for a diagnostic. If you don't have a diagnostic, how we can treat? If you don't know what they have, how we can support and help. And this shows me especially why I mentioned historical traumata. We have to go back sometimes. Kurds know the name of Ferman. Ferman is like Holocaust. It's like Aget at the Armenian genocides. So there's some cues, some words, they are remember, they are not alone. So besides psychotherapy, medical treatment, and medication treatment, the understanding of the trauma in the society show us it's very important. And this means at least we can help. This is right. And in Kurdistan, the mental health situation is very clear, and we have to do more. The hope of peace, ladies and gentlemen, I come to hope, is very carefully cope the trauma. Individuality, as in a community, linked with justice. Justice looks very important for the people because they have the question of why. So we are doing very hard researches now in Germany to research more the impact of justice for psychotherapy. If you don't have justice, if you don't have trust, how you can open you, how you can speak about your trauma. Also, there's a political issue we have to talk about. The trauma is not something just medical. Systems, dictatorships, caused trauma. They have during war. And we have also integrated to talk with the people about this issue. Human beings have the ability, the potential of violence. That's right. But at the same time, they have the potential of humanity, of help, of support. It's up to you which we want to decide. We can change the world through individual psychotherapy. It's not just to change the behaviors, it changes the mind and the ideas for the future to have a better future. If we look on the Kurdish history, again, all you know how important it is to talk sometimes about this issue and about the impact of trauma. Hope is very important, and hope is nothing, it's a medication. It's just a feeling. But ladies and gentlemen, we are all human. And as long as we have hope, we will see the light of tomorrow. Kurdistan and Kurdish people experienced massacre and fled in Piran, in Zilan, in Ahmedi. Have they lost hope? Kurds experienced uprising and massacre in Mahabad. Have they lost hope? Kurds experienced unbelievable, not imaginable massacre and genocide during Anfal and Halabja. Have they lost hope? Kurds experienced terror in Kobane and in Afrin. Have they lost hope? Kurds experienced suffer and pain in Shangal. Have they lost hope? No, because hope is a motto of life. It drives our existence. Trust and hope strengthens your own. Despite all, I'm saying not yielding. 11-year Yasmin was in the hand of IS. She was, like others, tortured and raped. When I examined her and asked her question, what would you like to be? She looked in my eyes and pointed to my chair. I would like to be sit in your chair. I would like to be a doctor to help my people. If Yasmin has still hope, why I should give up hope? Why should you give hope? زۆر سپاس. هەر شاد و بەختەوار بن بە هێویەکە ژیانێک ئازاد. سپاس هەر هەبن.